Welcome to the Let's Keep It Light podcast, and thanks for listening. In this episode, Ginger and Marcie cover the basics of photobiomodulation and the different wavelengths currently in use.
Okay, Marcie Denton.
Hi there.
Marcie, what is light therapy? Well, let me do it this way. The fancy word, photobiomodulation. What is that? Everybody's talking about it. What is it?
Absolutely. A few years ago, we kind of got a little bit smart about the name of light therapy. And we'll talk about what light therapy is and what photobiomodulation is, which is the same. But they decided they needed a name that said what it did. So let me explain. Photo meaning light, bio meaning light in a living organism. Modulation is the big fancy word for change.
Right.
So what we now say when we say photobiomodulation is declaring that light therapy changes the body.
Right. Now, everybody thinks when we're currently talking about light therapy, red light therapy, as though the red is the only wavelength or color. So is red the only wavelength or color that we're using in photobiomodulation right now?
Absolutely not. Historically, it was red and infrared. Then they began to see the value of blue. So we added blue as a common information. And then we're now expanded to greens and aquas and all flavors of frequencies that are wavelengths. That's what gives them the color, is the wavelength. And the value we're finding out that how it affects or changes, modulates the body, is new information coming all the time about how much it is so good for us.
Right. And so since red light therapy and infrared is what everybody seems to be using right now, talk a little bit about what is the difference between red, infrared, and blue. Let's just start on those three right now, since those are the most common.
So let's start with wavelength.
Okay.
Light was that it was a wave or it was a particle, and they fought about it. And they
In science.
In science. And so they finally decided it was both. Nice compromise. Well, they discovered that the light is both a wave, which gives us the colors that we see.
Okay.
And it's a particle, which gives us the activity in the body that makes a huge difference. So it is a particle and it is a wave. The idea that we can put red light and even a very much longer wavelength called infrared into the body and it modulates it, it changes it, is fantastic. And how did we know that?
How did we know that?
We knew it because of NASA. We knew it because we're using plants in space for their food.
So NASA's who's been doing the research on light therapy for decades, many, many decades.
They took the research that was there and put it into play for having food in space. And they were using red and infrared, and they were using other colors as well. But what was interesting, and I say this all the time as a science teacher, is that it's the odd things that you want to pay attention to. The hands of the NASA scientists who were handling the plants under the lights had better tissue looks and feel than the other scientists not using the lights.
Right.
That was the beginning. Oh, light must be doing something good. And that was the beginning, which I think is so exciting because it was odd. And that's the odd thing about paying attention to how light is working within us.
Right. So that was red and infrared light. And so talk a little bit more about the difference. Now, red we can see with the naked eye, but infrared a human being cannot perceive with the naked eye. But then what's that effect on the physiology when we place light against the skin or we're exposed to one of these wavelengths, as in light therapy, photobiomodulation?
So the red light wavelength is able to penetrate the tissue of the body about an inch.
Okay.
The infrared can penetrate a little bit deeper, like about 2 to 3 inches, which means it's very much deeper in penetration to the tissues of the body. The activity of the red light, how it changes the cell, is the same as the infrared. The difference is how deep it can go, and the fact that the effect means that you have a capacity to influence tissue deeper with infrared than with red. So the combination is found in most devices. You have a combination of red and infrared so that it can do both. They can penetrate deeper or it can penetrate lighter, and it works beautifully.
And I know with red and infrared, then we also have a mechanism of action of the support of the release of nitric oxide. And I don't know that we want to get into that conversation right now. But do you want to say a little bit about, well, then what about blue? If red and infrared are stimulating, or penetrating that deeply, what's blue light, which is like the third most common of the wavelengths or colors?
So what do you see when you get on a bus these days? They have blue light.
Yes.
That is so odd, isn't it? And in the hospitals, they have areas of blue light. Blue light has the capacity to kill germs.
Right. And that's why they have them in a lot of the new refrigerators. So a lot of the new refrigerators, if you go into an appliance store, if you don't have one of these in your home, you open it up, there's a blue light in the refrigerator for the same reason, to kill the bacteria and the odor, because the odor's following the bacteria, right? But, I've also seen that in some of the airline bathrooms, in some airlines in the newer planes, that there's blue light in the bathroom.
So we keep finding out the beauty and the glory and the wonder of light. Light is I call it the health and wellness technology of the future, but of the now. And it is of great value. We haven't even begun to talk about its influence on pain and its influence on providing the information the body uses to heal itself.
Right. So do you think that's why in the beginning God created light, said, let there be light?
Well,
right.
Well, and in many, many cultures, and in many cultures that have belief systems, place light as holy, as sacred. It is a universal understanding that light is good, and light is part of the process of being human, yes, of being in relationship to light. And when things are down and you want to feel better, how many of us go to the light and actually experience the benefits, the holistic benefits of light?
Well, as you know, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but every living organism needs light. So even in the darkest parts of the ocean where it appears that there is no light, there is still light, right? I read an article about that. That's how I know that. But so every living organism needs light. We need light to function properly. So now we spoke a little bit about what red light, infrared does, and blue. There's many other benefits which we'll get to in other episodes. We'll go into more depth, like the benefit of blue light to the skin, correct? But many other things.
But I'd like to take a moment to speak to what the photon does inside the body.
I love the photon. First, you have to tell our audience. A lot of them will know what a photon is, but they may not.
So it is the particle. It's the light as a particle. And in 1998, the factor of what is it that this photon does was discovered.
Wait, what photon does?
What the particle of light does in your body.
Okay.
They found out that every metabolic process that happens, every life process in your body requires a photon. It is the life force.
Okay.
And it is the energies of developing the tissues that need to be healed, that need restoration, that need to actually, it's what converts your food into energy. It's what takes care of building tissue. It's every single thing that your body has to do is a life process. And a photon is necessary. And they discovered that one photon can do and make and happen over 100,000 processes at one time. It is truly the miracle of life. And that is, to me, one of the reasons why my emphasis over the last few years has been the value of biophotons, which is what they're called if they're inside the body.
Biophotons, because it's inside the body. And so, again, we go back to the whole thing that every living organism needs light. And you've just, one more time, repeat. And why is that? Because every living process, every process in your body requires a photon. And that means that your life force is really light. Oh, that's awesome. I'm going to remind us in this conversation, because we talk about this all the time, but for the listening audience, that our teacher, one of my teacher, and now one of Marcie's, through the work, Hannah Kroger, had this statement that she always said, and it is our guiding principle for everything we do, really, in the holistic field, but surely in photobiomodulation or light therapy. And her statement was, the human body is the most sophisticated computer that was ever designed. There will never be a computer smarter than the human body. Given the proper information or the proper encouragement, the body heals itself. So with light therapy, what we know is giving them the proper information of the photons, the biophotons, the light, is what is enabling the body to heal itself. And there's more to it than that. We're going to go into the mechanism of action and why is that happening, because it's not magic, right? It's not magic. Well, it sort of is magical, right?
No.
You know what I'm saying? But it is magical in a way, but there's hardcore science behind it. And we're going to go into that at length.
Marcie Denton and Dr. Ginger Bowler are certified light therapy instructors and co-founders of the Light and Energy Training Seminars certification program. You can send us an email with your questions and comments to podcast@letskeepitlight.com, and be sure to visit us on Facebook and Instagram. This episode was engineered and mixed by Dr. Decibel Productions. I'm Sarah Weston. Thanks for listening, and until next time, let's keep it light.